Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Boxiest, and today we're going to continue the What If series. What if events had gone differently? And in this What If, we're going to change the history of Cobra Kai. What if Tory saved Kenny from Anthony during the events of Cobra Kai Season 4? So in this timeline, the events of Cobra Kai Season 4 would still happen, Daniel and Johnny would still team up, and those events would stay the same. Kenny would still be the new kid at his school, and he would still be picked on by Anthony and his friends, and much like in the original timeline, Anthony and his friends would still convince Kenny to come to the park dressed up. Those events would stay the same. Anthony and his friends would still make fun of him, and they would still record him. Kenny would try to get them to stop, and he would still break Anthony's phone. Anthony and his friends would still get mad, and they would still attack him. But in this timeline, Tory would be walking in the park, and she would see Anthony and his friends beating up Kenny. Tory would get mad, and she would approach them, and she would tell them to leave Kenny alone. But Zach would tell her to mind her own business, and since Tory was still on probation, she wouldn't want to attack them. Instead, Tory would see if Kenny was okay, and Anthony and his friends would eventually leave. Kenny would thank Tory for standing up for him. Tory would tell Kenny that he needed to learn how to fight back, so Tory would invite Kenny to join Cobra Kai, and those events would carry on. The next day, Kenny would show up at the Cobra Kai dojo, and he would still want to join. So Kenny would still try out, and he wouldn't be successful. And much like in the original timeline, Kenny would still leave, but Tory would find him through his backpack. And in this timeline, it would be Tory that would train him. So Kenny would try out for Cobra Kai again, and he would make it in. So Kenny would join Cobra Kai in this timeline, and he would have a bond with Tory. Those events would continue. Kenny and Tory would start training, and their bond would start to grow. Robbie would eventually find out that Kenny was Sean's brother, so Robbie and Kenny would start to get along. Season 4 would carry on. Hawk would still pick on Kenny, and Kenny would still tell the Cobra Kais, but Tory would know that Hawk wasn't Kenny's main bully. So in this timeline, the Cobra Kais wouldn't get their revenge on Hawk, and Hawk would stay in Eagle Fang. Season 4 would stay the same. The night of the All Valley, the three dojos would compete. Cobra Kai would start winning their matches. Robbie and Kenny would still fight, but much like in the original timeline, Robbie wouldn't be holding back, and he would defeat Kenny. But this time Tory would want to see if Kenny was okay, so Tory would go see if Kenny was okay, and she would wait outside the boys' locker room for Kenny to come out. Since it wasn't Robbie that checked up on Kenny, Kenny would get his revenge on Anthony in the locker room. Tory would see Kenny walking out of the locker room, and she would see Kenny's bloody hands, and she would ask him what happened, but Kenny would say that he finally stood up for himself, and that he got his revenge. Kenny would say that it was Cobra Kai, and that it was no mercy. The tournament would continue. In this timeline, Robbie would fight Hawk in the semifinals. Robbie would use a combination of offense and defense, while Hawk only used offense. And in this timeline, Robbie would defeat Hawk, so he would advance to the finals. Miguel would fight Dimitri in the semifinals. Dimitri would be fighting with defense, while Miguel fought with offense, but Miguel would still defeat Dimitri in this timeline, and he would advance to the finals. Robbie and Miguel would fight, and Robbie would use a combination of offense and defense. Miguel would still be distracted, and he would still be injured. But in this timeline, Miguel would choose to fight, and the fight would continue. Robbie would start fighting dirty, and he would target Miguel's weak points. And since the referee was on Robbie's side, Robbie would defeat Miguel. So Robbie would be the boys' All Valley champion. Sam and Tory would still fight, but during the fight, Tory would be distracted by Kenny, and she would be off her game. And even though the referee was paid off, Sam would get the upper hand, and she would defeat Tory. So Sam would be the girls' All Valley champion. But even though Sam won, Cobra Kai would win overall. The season would end in a very similar way. Eagle Fang and Miyagi-Do would be forced to shut down. Robbie wouldn't go to Johnny in this timeline, and he would decide to stay in Cobra Kai. Miguel wouldn't run away in this timeline, and Terry Silver would still betray Kreese. Daniel would still get chosen, and that is where I'm going to end this What If. Thank you guys for watching. What do you guys think would have happened if Tory saved Kenny from Anthony during the events of Cobra Kai Season 4? Let me know in the comments below. YouTube lets me know that the majority of you are not subscribed, so if you guys could subscribe, that would be much appreciated. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And I'll see you guys next time.